There seems to be a lot of thin phones with big screens coming out. It has to be getting harder to differentiate. So when consumers ask about what smartphone should they get, how do you steer them in a direction that's right for them?
Well, for every consumer is different, but I start out with the basic, which carrier do you want?
Sure.
Because I think that that's really the most fundamental and key thing you have to look at, because if you can't get service, then it doesn't matter if you have like the coolest phone on the block or not.
The coolest paperweight.
Exactly, yeah. And and then from there, certainly we see tons and tons of Android phones, and I think Android's a great operating system. I don't think it's for everyone though, and I think that as the operating system kind of evolves and we see more devices come on board, there can be a lot of problems that happen with software updates, and it's working fine one day and then it gets all glitchy the next day. So I think hopefully we'll see a little more stability in that operating system, but it really comes down to an individual, and I tell people, go to the store, see if you like the feel of the phone. First of all, so you pick the carrier, then even the physical form factor of it. That big screen may not be great for everyone. If you're going to stick it in your pants pocket and you don't have a very big pocket, that's not going to be real helpful to you. But then I think it just comes down to it is hard to differentiate, particularly if you say, okay, I want an Android phone on Verizon. Well, oh my God, they've got like a lot of those.
Embarrassment of riches at this point.
Right,
sure.
Right. So it's harder to do that, and it's funny because the carriers. You've got Verizon, who's like coming out with a new flagship phone. It seems like every week, and I wonder how they steer customers to particular handsets and figure out what people need. And I would think that's got to be a problem for the manufacturers too, to a certain extent.
You mentioned Android and some of the challenges that operating system faces, even in the face of its popularity. They recently came out with a new version, Ice Cream Sandwich. What's been your impression of it from what you've seen?
Definitely cool, and I think that it's a big improvement. It sort of changes things, makes it a little easier to use, a little slicker. I think the big problem for consumers is not everybody has it, and lots of folks want it, and when are they going to get it? Again, that's kind of the problem with Android and the rollout. Some people would say this is not a problem. They want to see the evolution of the operating systems and the software coming out more quickly. But I think one thing that Apple sort of has on Google is there's one basic release, and it just makes it a cleaner upgrade for a lot of people. Everybody knows if they can get it or they can't get it, and there's not this sort of mass consumer confusion.
Have you been hearing anything from T-Mobile customers concerned about the merger or potential merger?
Oh gosh, yeah. Particularly like early on when it was first announced in March, people were just terrified. What does this mean? Am I going to become an AT&T customer?
Right.
And now we're seeing the deal basically unravel and sort of fall apart. And I think what's unfortunate and sort of sad to watch happen to T-Mobile is it seems like they're getting marginalized more and more. Today they just came out with the first Nokia phone using the Windows Phone here in the U.S., and they didn't release the high-end one. They got sort of the lower-tiered phone, and I imagine that's because somebody else is going to get the high-end phone. So that sort of ties one hand behind T-Mobile's back as they try to compete with the bigger guys. And unfortunately, I think what we keep seeing is they just keep getting marginalized and pushed to the side as the bigger players just continue to eat up more customers. So.
Right. Well, it's definitely a very competitive space. What do you sort of see happening in the coming year? Or is it just going to be a lot more tablets? What are some of the hot features you're excited about in the newest generation of smartphones?
Well, I think 4G I think is going to be the big thing that I would look for. We're going to see more phones with it. Hopefully we'll see some more on AT&T. You know, they're going to be rolling out their LTE network.
Right.
And again, I think that's another confusing point. LTE is not the same as some of this other 4G flavors that people have been talking about.
4G, as it's sometimes called. Yeah.
Right. So I think you know, LTE is going to be something that it's going to be good, you know, and it's going to benefit all consumers who have those phones. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to be doing anything fancy with your phone. It's just going to make that experience all the better. So I think that's really the main thing that I'm excited about. And hopefully we'll see these networks get built out a little bit more. And, you know, kind of going back to the T-Mobile thing, you know, even though I feel sort of bad for T-Mobile, the good thing for consumers is that prices are coming down there. So, you know, I think you can find some value there. And hopefully, you know, we'll see some of these other competitors, you know, in the prepaid market, Leap Wireless with Cricket and Metro PCS, you know, offering some alternatives for folks that are a little cheaper, because I think everybody's wallet is hurting this year, and certainly probably will next year too.